Great. Thank you. Good evening and welcome to the Wednesday, June 24th, 2020 Conservation Commission meeting of Town of North Andover. Just a brief announcement for our meeting format this evening. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, MGL Chapter 38, Section 18, and the Governor's March 15th, 2020 order imposing strict limitation on the number of people that may gather in one place. This meeting of the North Andover Conservation Commission will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and/or parties with a right and/or requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the town's website at www.northandoverma.gov. For this meeting, members of the public who wish to watch, but we're really listening to the meeting, may do so on their televisions by turning to Comcast Channel 8 or Verizon Channel 26, or online at www.northandovercam.org. No in-person attendance of the members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so despite best efforts, we will post on the North Andover Town website an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive recording of the proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. If the public would like to participate in the public hearings, please email your question or comment prior to or during the meeting to myself, Amy Maxner, the conservation agent, at amaxner@northandoverma.gov. The question or comment will be read during the proceedings and responded to accordingly. So that's my intro, and I'll hand it over back to Lou, the chair.
Okay. Two things. If for some reason we lose communication amongst each other, we'll suspend the meeting for a couple minutes to try and get that person or persons back online. If we can't, we'll at one point probably suspend the meeting to a later date.
Okay.
Okay. And I would like to call my members in order. We'll start off with Jack Maven.
Present.
Joe Lynch.
Present.
Al McGregor. Al Manzi.
Thanks, buddy. I'm present.
Yeah, I know.
Lou, for the record, both of us are here.
Deb Feltovich.
Present.
Sean McDonough. Here. Good. And I'm Lou Napoli, the chairman, and I am here. And we will start with the approval of minutes for May 27th and June 10th.
I reviewed them. This is Deb. I reviewed them, and I approve of the minutes, and I would like them to be accepted.
All right. We need a second.
Second by Jack.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? And that's unanimous. The minutes are accepted. Next one is the COC 242-1738, 332 Hillside Road.
All right. So this order of conditions was issued in July of 2018 and covered the construction of a two-car garage with a master suite on top, measuring about 37 by 28, to an existing single-family house. Work included the removal of an existing deck and paved parking area turnaround, relocating of existing utilities, gas and electric. I'm getting some feedback, but
yeah, I know I am too.
Yeah, maybe people can mute if you can. Installation of a dry well for roof runoff and a brick walkway and minor site grading and resurfacing and the modified driveway. Work was within the 100-foot buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetland and required restoration of lawn, of mowed wetland. So there was a section of the wetland that was being mowed as lawn, and monumentation of that. Throughout the project life, there was two minor changes that were made to the plan that were administratively approved with the chairman's review and approval. One was changing the walkway material from brick to concrete, and the second one was allowing extension of the paving to the east of the new addition, outside of the buffer zone. There may have been a slight sliver in the very outer edge of the buffer. Um, and I mistakenly noted in my staff report that it didn't get built out, but it did. I was looking at the wrong plan when I said that. So, um, and then the special conditions included removal of dumped yard waste and brush within the resource area, monumentation with posts and markers between wetland flags A11 and 13. And actually, there was additional wetland markers installed along the rest of the wetland line as well. Um, and planting of 6 native shrubs between wetland flags A11 and A13 to be monitored for 1 year. I performed a site inspection, and I found that the built features to be in compliance with the approved plans. The only outstanding issue is with the fact that the plantings were not installed. I discussed that with the applicant on site, and he was of the opinion that the area is overrun with vines. There's bittersweet, poison ivy, and Virginia creeper out there that are actually climbing up the trees. And he was of the opinion that if the shrubs were planted in this area, that the vines would just eventually take them over. Um, and I can actually see that right now the vines are climbing up the trees, so there's a maintenance issue there. And so what I did, I recommended that he submit a request to amend that condition, and discuss it with the commission tonight.
Okay. Just some background to the commission. I talked with Amy about this today, and she was of the opinion that planting those shrubs would tend to be a waste of time also, based on the invasives and it being right up against the tree line as it is now. So I just wanted to give you a heads up on that stuff. Jack, any questions?
Well, yeah, I mean, sticking with that subject, to amend the order of conditions, I mean, we issue these order of conditions with good reason, and all the conditions have a good reason. And control of invasives is something that we typically do, and we support in our orders of conditions and in our projects. And I think I don't know. I'll ask the question: is it more consistent with our past practice that we ask for better control of invasives and planting of the shrubs as originally conditioned?
Is the applicant on the phone?
Yes, I am. This is Peter Calderado.
Would you like to answer Mr. Maben on that question?
Sure. I guess my one issue with the condition, not so much to plant the shrubs. Amy and I discussed that yesterday. I'm more than happy to plant the shrubs, just that, like we discussed, within 3 or 4 months, whatever I plant is going to be overtaken by the vines and everything else that's there naturally. And unless I sit there and maintain it every couple of months, the shrubs are not going to take. And I was concerned because the condition said within 1 year of a monitoring period to come back. And if the shrubs don't take to replace them, that's going to be an ongoing activity I'm going to need to do for the next couple of years. And I don't want this to hold up my certificate of compliance if the shrub's not going to take. And I think Amy and I talked about it and given the current conditions of that back area, I don't know if you see a picture of in the request for my modification. I showed a little snapshot of the area, so you can see the edge of the wetlands. We talked about maybe instead of planting the shrubs, I'll stop grassing. I mean, stop mowing the grass area, and just let the natural planting just kind of overtake up to the bound, and that'll probably be what's going to be there in 3 months anyway, whether I plant shrubs or not. So I think it might be overall a better for the wetlands just to let it come up to the where the markers are. I'll stop cutting the grass and just let it naturally grow in like it's been doing for 35 years. And I don't see planting shrubs there is really going to make any much of an impact, to be honest with you. So that was my concern. I don't want to be held responsible to monitor this every year, and then next year you're going to come back and say, oh, the shrubs died or the vines are all over. So I was just concerned about that requirement. That's all.
Yeah, I gotcha. I mean, I fight that in my yard too. I'm pulling vines out,
Yeah.
you know, as well, and trying to promote forsythias and rhododendrons and other desirable plants in my yard. And I just put on plastic bags and long sleeves and pulled out a bunch of poison ivy and those climbing vines as well.
I know the feeling.
Okay, so the yeah, but if you pull them out, you tend to do pretty well for about 3 months, and then you can maintain it from there. Anyway, my opinion is, you know, we should restore that area. I mean, we typically, you know, make these conditions for a reason, and wetland flags A11 and A13, that area in between them seems to need some attention. It sounds like what you're suggesting is for a possible amendment or modification is to substitute the shrubs with like a wetland seed mix to do a better job of choking off the vines and other things and other invasives. That's more reasonable than just totally eliminating the condition at all. I still think that controlling invasives is not an easy thing, but I would think that on our projects we typically try and make an attempt to do that, and I can typically I would understand how to control 2 of the 3, but that bittersweet is something I think that is very difficult, and we may need some more. I mean, Amy might have an opinion as to how to control that.
Well, I think what's important is to keep those vines off the trees that are in there. So, you know, and I think Peter mentioned that, you know, he does that periodically because eventually, you know, the bittersweet, all 3 vines, all 3 types of vines will just climb up those trees and take them down. So, you know, that
if you look at the graphic, Amy, it looks like the property line isn't too far away. So we can't ask him to clean
sure.
bittersweet off trees that aren't his.
True.
All right. Joe?
Okay.
Joe, any questions?
Actually, no.
Annie?
I think, no, I think that's well within his property.
Oh yes, it is. Yes,
Yeah.
that whole backyard is my property. Sorry.
Yeah, you might be thinking of the stone wall, Lou.
Okay.
That's not the.
Yeah, the stone walls actually, that's not a market for the property. It actually, it's more than that.
Yep.
Like I said, I mean, if you want me to plant something that, you know, to help that edge, I guess, extend to the monuments, I have no problem doing that. I just don't want to be held responsible to maintain it. And every 6 months, if you come out and it's not taking, that, you know, this thing keeps getting delayed because it's not being established. I don't think whatever I plant there is really going to grow to what you guys expect. So that's my concern. So I'd rather just be honest with you. I'll stop mowing it. I'll leave it alone. That line will probably extend within 3 months. You won't even see that grass. It'll be covered in that, in the vines and the natural growth that's there. I mean, that's my only concern. I don't want this to go on for 3 years because nothing's, growing the way that you expect it to grow. If you're okay with me planting it and then letting nature take its course, that's fine. I just don't. I don't really see. I know the order conditions wanted the shrubs there. I understand why. I know there's a wetland line there, but it's the back of my yard. There's nobody that's going there. We have an acre of wetlands already. The wetlands are thriving. I don't do anything back there that I shouldn't be doing. I mean, I'm on private well, so I'm not going to start dumping things in there that are going to contaminate my water. So I'm very conscientious about what I do in my yard. So, it's been like that for 35 years. I don't see why adding 6 shrubs is really going to make much of an impact. That's my only concern.
All right. Joe?
Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay. So I'm understanding that the original requirement was between flags A11 and A13, which I find a little intriguing, where it's opposite really where the disturbance was with the permit, though we always tried to recapture a buffer zone wherever we can. But I'm wondering,
Right.
Given the bittersweet or invasive vine in that area, I mean, is there an opportunity, and I don't know if the answer to this question, but is there an opportunity to do enhancement plantings elsewhere along the wetland line, up near where the garage was done? I don't know what the yard looks like, but is there a possibility for that discussion? And are we wrestling with the same vine issue in other areas of the yard as well?
That's a good question. I didn't look really closely to the rest of the and there might be, but then we're in lawn area, so.
So what I'm looking at, if between A11 and A13 was the area in question, if we went in an area between A1 and A4, somewhere in, recapturing some of that 25 back, is that reasonable? Is that possible for us to, and is that a reasonable alternative with a better chance for success? We would only be modifying where the replantings were done as opposed to eliminating it outright. I understand the issue, and I am not in favor of planting something for the sake of planting it, only to later on give relaxation that they were overtaken by vine.
Right.
That just doesn't make sense, and I agree with the applicant. But I don't want to just simply roll over and not think that we may not have a better opportunity elsewhere on the property,
Gotcha.
particularly opposite the disturbed area under this permit.
Right. Can I ask just, I know it's tough on the phone, so I apologize. I just want to ask a question. I understand what you're saying, and typically when you're asking to restore or do something elsewhere, I guess you're assuming or implying that whatever we did, we took away wetlands. We haven't worked in the wetlands. I haven't taken away any wetlands. That's the way it was when I moved in 35 years ago. So we're not, you keep saying restoring. We didn't take anything away. That's the way it was always. So I don't know if you want me to put a wetland somewhere else. I mean, the wetland line follows the front of the property. Once you get beyond the house, I'm outside the buffer zone. So there is no wetland. So I'm not sure what you're going to gain by planting wetland shrubs someplace where there's no, I mean, I'm a little confused on what you're trying to ask me to do, because we're not.
Peter, I'm not suggesting wetland restoration. What I'm suggesting is just like they were under this order to begin with, was a buffer zone restoration. So up in that area, if there is not any invasive vine and it is up in the area where the actual work was done, it may be a logical location to do that. Again, I'm looking at your plan. I'm not looking at photographs. I'm not looking at anything else. But there may be an opportunity there, and it's not that we're moving wetland closer to your house or enhancing or enlarging the wetland. We're simply enhancing that buffer zone, that area that protects the wetland away from areas that are disturbed. So I'm looking up in the area between what were flags A1 to A4 as being, from the plan perspective, looks like an opportunity to me.
Right. Okay, I don't have the plan open, so I'm assuming A1 to A4 is in the front of the property. coming down from there's an existing shrub that kind of follows that stone wall line, and then,
Yep, you have some existing trees, you have existing trees following the stone wall line, which is like the
Yep.
front corner of your house towards Hillside.
Yep.
Where the last tree is, that's where A1 begins.
okay,
And
yep. That's the
four
edge of the well,
extends
okay.
out, probably another 40 or 50 feet diagonally, towards the back.
Okay,
So, parallel to the front of the house. So that's the area that I'm talking about where it looks like there might be an opportunity to do something as an exchange of location and not an elimination of the requirement. And that's just my
Okay.
opinion. My commissioners,
Okay.
fellow commissioners may not agree with that approach, but that's the approach I think I want to offer at this point. Let's go around. Let's hear from somebody else, and if I have more to add, I can come back to me. Okay, Lou?
Okay. Al?
Hi, good evening, everybody. Mr. Calderazzo.
yes,
Hi, how are you?
good, how are you?
I'm good, thank you, sir. The
Okay.
problem I'm having with your request is, you're concerned about, being required, if the plantings were mandated and not waived, you're concerned about being required to go in and continue to provide for the survivability of the plants. But as I look at the photograph that was submitted with the
Yep.
with the request for modification, you're already on the hook for providing for the survivability of those trees that are so close to your house, or you're going to be back in front of us in a couple of years asking us to let you cut them down. You've got a maintenance issue there, with or without the plantings, and so you're already on the hook for that, because if you allow those vines as described to overtake those large trees, you're going to lose them. You're going to lose everything there, and
Right, I agree.
that's a bad plan. I want to suggest to you that's a bad idea. So,
Well, okay.
since you've already got to do it anyway, why wouldn't you just want to put in the plantings and then engage in a maintenance plan that would provide for the elimination of the invasives? I would suggest you could do that much more easily and more successfully. Certainly, we wouldn't ask you to plant and just walk away and turn away. The requirement
Okay.
was, that was a pretty good, that's a pretty good project you did there. A 2-stall garage with a master suite.
Right.
It was a big project, and typically that's a very normal condition for us to request on large
Right.
projects. I don't think this project required any waivers. Am I correct?
It did not.
Did not.
So that's good. So this was just buffer zone enhancements, I believe, not wetland replication. Is that correct, Amy? These are just buffer zone enhancements?
It was reclaiming wetland that was mowed as lawn. That's really what it is.
So honestly, if that's what it is, then I have to say then that's what it is. I have no objection to Joe's suggestion of perhaps if you had to reclaim elsewhere, I wouldn't object to that either. But whichever way it goes, whether you have to plant as requested or whether you get an amendment to a different location, you would be ill-advised to take no action on those invasives unless you want to see a tree fall down, and I'm sure you don't. So
I don't, and I understand what you're saying, and it makes sense to me. The only difference is that now I'm doing what you're saying in terms of maintenance for my own, and nobody's coming in saying, "Oh, you didn't do a good job there. You need to." I'm doing it to the satisfaction of myself. Now I need to do it to the satisfaction of the commission, and if you guys are going to come in and say, I don't want to be, so I don't know. Well, put it this way, I to go back a little bit.
Yeah.
If you want me to plant the shrubs, I'd rather plant the shrubs there than somewhere else. 'Cause I think, like you said, the benefit's going to be there. It makes sense to plant it there. I don't have them planting it. I mean, if you guys tell me what kind of shrubs you want me to plant, because I never really was given a list of what type of shrubs you want me to plant, I can plant them there. And obviously, like you said, I'm not going to let things go crazy because obviously it's going to impact the rest of the yard anyway. So I will do some kind of maintenance there just to keep it from overtaking other things. But
I mean, it'll kill those trees, Peter. It's going to kill the big trees right
Sure.
there within striking distance of your house. Have you consulted with a wetland scientist or a certified arborist for an opinion on how to basically do some maintenance there and what would survive if planted?
No, I've been doing it, my own. I mean, again, that's that picture you're looking at that's for over 25 years. So it's maintained pretty well. It hasn't, I mean, in the fall, everything dies out. I go in there, I clean out some of the things. Obviously, it's loaded. It's poison ivy and grapevines all intertwined. So I have to be careful when I go in. I gotta pick and choose my battles, so to speak. So I wait when late fall when I can see what I'm doing, and I do, right. So I have no problem doing that. I mean, if the commission wants me to put the shrubs there, I rather put it there than somewhere else because I don't see that benefit at all. I mean, obviously the condition was to maintain that buffer zone line. I'll do it. I mean, if you let me know what kind of shrubs.
That's why I'm suggesting or asking if you consulted with anybody that's actually in that line of work. It might not be a bad idea to get an opinion from either a wetland scientist or an arborist or somebody that has the ability to give you a good solid opinion and at the same time a maintenance plan that would minimize your time in the poison ivy. And then anyway, that's my suggestion.
Yeah.
And I'll yield to the chair. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate your comment.
Well, we got some pretty good feedback from my fellow commissioners, and you're willing to keep the shrubs there. And I would listen to Mr. Manzi's suggestion to take care of your vases because they're going to come back and haunt you later.
Sure. Yep.
I have no questions, Deb.
Okay. Oh, that's fine. Okay. Well, is the commission gonna at least give me a planting list or what kind of shrubs you want to see there?
That's you'll meet with Amy. Amy will give you a suggestion.
Oh, okay.
She'll give you a list.
Okay.
Right.
Mr. Chairman, there might be a couple more commissioners down the table there.
I know. I did say Deb. I did say Deb.
Okay.
Oh.
No. Okay.
Okay. What I agree with Al. I think that the gentleman should plant where he was supposed to plant in the first place, and then just kind of monitor the invasive species to make sure that those trees are going to be standing and won't have to be cut down at a future date. That's it.
Okay. Sean?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Amy, in your presentation, you referenced something about a 25-foot line and having gone within it. Can you just tell me what you had been talking about with a little more detail?
I'm sorry, say that again?
I thought during your presentation you had referenced that you looked at something on the site and there was a mismeasurement or something within 25 feet of a wetland. I didn't follow all of it. That's what I was kind of asking for. See if I understood it right or some kind of follow-up.
I don't think we discussed that. It's all about him not wanting to put plants where we asked him to, and now he's decided to put the plants there and took Mr. Manzi's suggestion to eliminate the invasives off the large trees before they die.
Right. Yeah, no, I get all that, Lou, but I thought in Amy's presentation, she referenced that something happened on site. She misunderstood it and approved it or something like that.
No, I'm sorry.
Oh,
So
okay.
in my staff report, I talked about the extension of the paving of the driveway that was outside the buffer that was administratively approved, and I said in my staff report that it didn't get fully built out, but that was incorrect. It did get fully built out. I was looking at the wrong plan when I wrote that staff report. For the
So when
driveway.
you say it got fully built out, how far away from the wetland is it now?
Almost all of it's out of the buffer zone. There's like a teeny little sliver that's in the, just inside the buffer.
Which buffer, the 50 or the 25?
Oh, the 100, just inside.
Oh, the 100. Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. Okay, thanks. Nope, that's all I was wondering about. No other questions.
Okay. So so what we do as far as we can, should we vote on COC and make it on the condition of plants to plant, or do we continue?
My opinion, Mr. Chairman, is I think we should continue and give him a chance to get an opinion and submit a plan. It would be a bad idea to issue in advance of.
Okay. All right, so Mr. Calderosi, well,
Calderosi, yep.
Yep, we just have to, would you want to continue to the next meeting and give you time to, get the planting done and, well, not done, but, well, yeah, have to get them done to, and then go from there. So we'd have to continue for 2 weeks.
Okay,
We have
okay, and
we have to continue until July 22nd.
Right.
Okay.
Lou, this is Jack. Before we move
Yes,
on,
Jack.
is the requirement to plant the shrubs and then monitor them for a year or 1 or 2 growing seasons?
Yes.
I was gonna ask the same thing, Jack.
Yep.
Okay,
The shrub
so
will monitor for 1 year.
would it be better if the applicant would withdraw the request for COC? Because I don't think we won't be able to monitor them within 2 weeks.
Right.
Agreed.
All right, so we want the applicant to withdraw until the plants are stable and then go for COC.
He can always come up with he could always comply with the order and come back and request a bond reduction during the growing time.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Can you hear us, Mr. Calderosi?
Yeah, yes, all right, so you want me to withdraw the COC? I'll get the planting list from Amy at some point. We'll talk offline, I guess.
Yep.
I'll do the plantings and then, so the order condition said, yeah, one year monitoring period. So are you saying that I have to wait a year before I get the COC finalized?
Yes, you have to go through the growing season, but you can't ask for, I don't even know how much bond you have, but you can't ask for bond reduction during the growing
You got
season.
I gave you guys $1,500 almost 2 years ago, which I was hoping to get sooner than next year. But if that's what it is, I guess that's what it is. I don't know.
You can request a partial bond release once you've
Okay.
gotten everything into compliance. That's certainly normal to do.
Okay.
Historically, though, we don't issue more than half of the bond. So just that.
Okay.
For your own mindset.
Okay, I appreciate. Thank you.
All right. So we have
Okay.
a motion. We have a motion to withdraw the COC application of 242-1738.
Is it a motion or I think it's a request.
I think he was.
Yes, not a
Yeah,
motion.
I move that we accept the applicant's request to withdraw the COC, request for COC.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, and that's unanimous. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, and I'll be in touch, Peter.
Okay, Amy, thank you.
And thanks.
All right. Next one is an RDA for 40 Ridgeway.
Okay, this property has been before the commission before in May of 2019. It received a negative determination of applicability for the construction of a 20 by 20 addition with full foundation, relocation and reconstruction of an existing patio, and relocation of an unpermitted shed that was inside the 25 and moved outside of the 50. Plantings were required in the area where the shed was, 6 native shrubs at 3 feet high. Ben and I did a site inspection, I think it was August of 2019, and verified that the shed was relocated. At that time, the plants were not in. But on this new plan for this new RDA, the plants are shown, and I did do a site inspection, so the plants are in. So 2 out of 6 aren't doing well, but the rest are doing fine. So this new RDA uh, proposes the construction of an in-ground pool with a spa, with surrounding patio, a low retaining landscaping. These features are outside of the 50-foot no-build zone, and the retaining wall at the very edge of the 50. It appears that some grading is proposed to match the 340 contour throughout the surface of the proposed pool patio, which would result in about a 2 to 3 foot grade change, thus the small, low retaining wall needed for the edge of that. Plan does show an access route and stockpile area, and erosion control is proposed along the 50-foot line. But I'm wondering if that might be too much of a squeeze for construction equipment because it really bottlenecks things. Um, let's see. So I guess that sort of summarizes the project. And Lou, I'll hand it to you, I guess.
Okay. I just would like to make you aware that this filing was done without the, I don't know what you say it, the oversight of our administrator, because it's going to take more than 3 conditions on this pool. I spoke to her about it and I thought it was questionable. So I was going to leave it up to the commission because I think it should be an NOI. Excuse me. But well, it's up to you guys. So I just want it's under recommendations I have. It says if I were asked, I would have recommended this to be an NOI, but perhaps the commission has seen an in-ground pool outside the 50 as an RDA before. So I just, she knows, and I just want to make you aware of that. Jack?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with your comments, Lou. I agree it's borderline RDA at best. I think I agree with Amy's point about the erosion control, and I think there's an easy way around that. They've proposed new erosion control to be at the 50-foot, and I think they could probably move it to connect with that existing hay bale line that they have there, and to allow for construction access, which was your concern. I don't see that being a problem. The pre and post, that's definitely absolutely necessary on this. The cartridge filter is something we usually condition for projects like this too. I have an opinion about one of your suggested conditions, Amy, and that is about when to discharge water from the pool and where.
Yeah.
I think the timing is appropriate, but I think the plan should specify a location where that gets discharged to, instead of leaving it open and saying, it has to be done to the lawn instead of the wetland. So I think typically what we would do is condition that it be discharged outside the 100-foot buffer zone. So that I would think that would be a condition that would be better written for this project. I do have a question though. It looks like the edge of the patio has. My question is about that. Is it a retaining wall that is that supports the end of that patio? Along its line facing the 50-foot and the 25-foot no disturb zone.
So Dennis Grici's with us this evening with Andover Consultants. He's the applicant's engineer. And Dennis, maybe you can speak to that.
Yes, good evening. Dennis Gricic with Andover Consultants on behalf of the applicant. That will be a small retaining wall. So right now it's a fieldstone retaining wall with a mason built for the existing patio, and that wall is going to continue out And as Amy stated, it will be between about 3.5 feet in some locations.
There should be a
wet the patio.
You should provide a detail on that, whether it's an RDA or an NOI. There should be a detail on that retaining wall. And that's all I have, Lou. I'll just reiterate, I think this is borderline at best.
Okay, thank you. Joe?
Hi, Chairman. I had the exact same thought when I was reviewing the plans the other day, and I think everybody's trying to be gracious, but this isn't even close to an RDA. This is a full-blown NOI, I'm afraid. The work is right up to the 50. We would never allow anything of the sort. The idea of things that would be something like that not requiring an NOI was something we'd never would consider. So I think all the specificity, maybe guidance for what will be eventually a full NOI, we could either administratively take a vote or part of our proceedings, take a vote to deny or require it as a positive RDA, or we could allow the applicant to withdraw. And given the fact that they submitted the application without guidance or discussion with the commission, but I think any detailed discussion at this point beyond saying, look, it's an NOI is just premature.
Okay,
That's all I have.
I'm just going to interject here for a minute, Al. I met with Amy today. We actually go through the agenda just to talk about stuff. And I asked Amy to get in touch with the applicant to tell them that if they withdrew the RDA and skip the hearing and apply for an NOI, that we could kind of like cross over the fee. So, but they said that they want to move forward. So I have some other questions, but just to reinforce Joe's concerns about that.
Sure. If I may, this is Dennis Gricci again. So before we filed, I did reach out to Amy just to discuss the project with her. I know she wasn't involved with the original submittal of the RDA last April. So that patio that was built as part of that last RDA was still under construction, or it's just finished construction. I asked Amy if we should modify that RDA or just submit a new one, and that's why we submitted a new one at the time. And I think that there was some discussion.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Ed. I guess I misunderstood the scope of the project. Apologies.
Yeah, and the misunderstanding, I understand, but a discussion was had with Amy, and I may not have properly conveyed the full extent of the project. But as part of one of the reasons that the applicant wanted to proceed this evening with the hope of getting a request for a negative determination with as many conditions as the commission saw fit, is so that they could proceed with the work, hopefully get it wrapped up early fall and get landscaping, the lawn planted in that backyard and get things stabilized. That lawn has been pretty much ripped up for a better part of a year as they've been building the last project. If they get delayed another month, landscaping won't be put in until October, at which time there's a high likelihood that it won't take, and there'll be another full winter with exposed dirt and no vegetation in. So that would be another reason why they want to proceed tonight. Optimistic that the commission may choose to grant a negative determination with as many conditions as they feel necessary.
Thank you. Al?
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Dennis, I'm going to say this to you. Don't put this on us and say that we're going to inconvenience your clients. This is on you. This is an NOI every day of the week, and why you thought you could put it in as an IDA, I have no idea. But the delay that will be caused is on you. And my opinion and my vote is a positive determination. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. My question for the applicant is I'm a stickler for grades, and I know I talked to Amy about that, and it was the elevations in between the patio and the pool. I was under her understanding that it was going to be almost a 2-foot fill. on the front side between and it has no contours from the pool down to the wetlands. Where's the water gonna go now? You can't tell. I mean, I know it's gonna go. It should go that way, but we don't know how. I mean, is it all gonna go in one spot? Is it all gonna, at least if we have elevations, we can kind of figure out where we're going. But you filling in between the pool and the deck and holding it back with a wall, it kind of red flags me. So
Between the pool and the deck, I don't think I'm following
the wall. You're building a wall along the pool, and it connects the deck. It looks like there's a set of stairs. So evidently the patio is elevated. Yeah. So evidently the patio is elevated because you're walking down into the yard. So
No,
there
that's
must be, so where the wall is and where the deck is, in between the pool and the deck, it's got to be a fill, and I don't know because
there's not a
I
there's not
don't
a
have
deck
any
there.
elevation.
That's a patio.
So, and like I said, as soon as Amy showed this to me today, I said this was an NOI, and I asked her to contact you about making this an NOI. So
Amy did call me this afternoon, and we discussed the project.
okay,
And
that's where I stand with it.
Yeah.
Deb?
I agree that this project should be an NOI, and I agree with Al's assessment of the project.
All set, Deb?
All set.
Sean?
No questions.
All right. So, need a motion.
Before you call for a motion, I think it's only fair that having gone around the table and heard the concerns from the commission, we might want to offer one last opportunity to withdraw, short of getting what's likely to be a positive determination, which is going to give them the same end result. A withdrawal with some sort of leniency on the application fee certainly is something we can work with. If we vote a positive determination, that goes away. So I think we should ask one last time of the applicant, would they wish to reconsider?
Yes, having heard the input from the commission, we would respectfully withdraw the request for determination of applicability, and we will file a notice of intent for the project.
So what you're saying, it's hard to hear. I hate you're saying you're willing to withdraw this RDA and file for an NOI.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So we have a motion to withdraw.
I move that we accept the applicant's request to withdraw.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? And that's unanimous. And like I said, I would appreciate it if I had some elevation on the project so we know where the water's going.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next one. Where am I here? All right. 502 Winter Street.
Okay. All right, this RDA application is for a backyard paver patio, low landscape wall with granite steps, and a landscaping plan. No waivers are sought for this application. All work is outside of the 25, and all structures and patio is outside of the 50-foot no build zone. They're proposing to remove a forsythia hedge and two failing maple trees and replace with other native natural materials. Plantings are all outside the 25. Native within the 50, and non-invasive ornamental beyond the 50 that are, closer to the house and in the landscape beds. The rear section of the fence, the existing fence, is proposed to receive a gate to access the plantings behind the fence and the bird feeders that would be placed there. Construction access and stockpile areas are shown on the plan off the end of the driveway. Uh, the project plans note that the wetland flaggings will remain during work. Wetland delineation has been updated from the as-built plan of 2010. I visited the site today and I found the updated delineation to be reasonable. It follows landforms out there. My assumption is that the previous wetland delineator was, um, they call them lumpers and splitters. I don't know if you ever heard that, but I think, you know, the previous delineator was a lumper, whereas this new one is a splitter and just followed more of the landforms out there. So I think that the updated wetland delineation makes sense. And I don't think it, you know, impacts the project significantly either way. Um, and we do have a butter comments, but I'll read those a little bit later if you guys want to go with your questions.
Okay, first, yeah, we'll start with Jack with his questions.
Okay, so it looks like, looking at the plan here, it looks like the erosion control is proposed to be 100% outside the 25-foot no disturb zone. So that would be the limit of work. It looks like all non-planting is clearly outside the 50-foot no disturb zone or no build zone. And yeah, I mean, it looks like a reasonable project to me. Someone who wants to beautify their yard. If you're okay with the line, Amy, I would not have a problem with granting a negative on this. That's all, Lou.
Thank you, Jack. Joe?
I have no questions.
Okay. Al?
Just want to confirm, Amy, there are no waivers sought for this project, right?
Correct.
And you don't observe, have you been to the site?
Yes, today.
And you comfortable with the site and the representations made?
Yes.
Okay, I'm all set, Mr. Chairman. I have no further questions.
Okay. I know your butter's going to say something, but I don't think the gate on the back of the property has any impact on the wetlands. And so I just wanted to make the butter aware of that, the way I feel about it. And besides that, everything looks good to me. Yep.
No questions.
Sean?
No questions.
Okay.
Before we move on, are there any violations on site, Amy? Any dumping piles or anything like that currently that you observed?
Nope.
No. Okay. Thank you.
So I do want to be able to read the abutters comments though into the record though.
Yes, I don't know if she was online or you.
No.
You have a letter. Okay.
I would read her email if you're ready.
That's fine.
Okay, so this is abutters Bonnie Wilkinson and Lee Wilkinson. Thank you, dear Amy. Thank you for coming out to visit with us this morning and reviewing our questions and concerns. She is presenting her concerns below. The conference call format is difficult and not conducive to having a conversation with questions and answers. While we appreciate the details within the application proposal, we have many concerns, and as a town, we should be trying to protect the wetlands, vegetation, and wildlife. As you know, we have reported several violations of other prior abutters' bad behaviors. Therefore, we are very sensitive to any new activity and want to understand every detail to ensure compliance with the least amount of disruption to our wildlife, vegetation, wetlands. The notification to abutters certified letter was given to the post office on June 17th, which is technically per the bylaws. However, the letter arrived on Saturday, June 20th, which was which is less than 7 calendar days, and does not give us much time to review the material and have a conversation regarding our concerns on this proposal, which we feel is unfair. We would like to recommend a change to the number of days required prior to the public hearing that a butter notification is mailed out. Also, the front of the certified letter envelope stated signed for, or someone wrote signed for, but they were not home to sign for it. Who signed for this letter? Right do they have to sign on our behalf? If if some if someone could mute their phones ending in 21, that would be great. Um, let's see. Let's see. Okay, so she provided attached certified envelope with the signature on it. They weren't home when that came to their mailbox, and the green card was gone. So I don't know what happened on that end. I asked the applicant to forward the green cards, and that they're not ready today, but their office assistant will have them tomorrow to me. Um, why are there so many changes suggested to the existing vegetation, including adding plants and trees outside of the 50-foot no build zone and removal of 2 trees in declining health? Are the 2 trees really in declining health? Pictures were taken in the fall or spring before the bloom season and don't necessarily represent a distressed tree. Bruin Hill and Winter Street residents have been through a lot of projects such as National Grid power line projects and the Maritime gas pipeline installation. During the projects, we were told that there were vernal pools in the area. However, the proposal said this proposal said per natural heritage and endangered species mapping, there are no estimated habitat or rare wetlands, wildlife, or certified vernal pools on the subject property. When was the natural heritage endangered species mapping complete? We have a very large turtle over 35 years of age that crosses Bruin Hill every year, as well as other turtles that come to lay the eggs in our lawns and then go back to the small ponds and wetlands. This just happened this week. The Eagle Tribune wrote an article about this turtle and its annual crossing several years ago. We have potential endangered protected wildlife in this area. Who is watching out for them? Why is a fence access door being proposed in a wetland restricted area? We want to we want to restrict human interaction in these areas, not make it easier. Why can't the bird feeders be put inside the fence in an area as well as anything else that needs to be maintained? We have firsthand awareness of neighboring parcels who have violated wetland boundaries. The first example being one neighbor installing a fence with access door to the wetland zone, and he dumps his yard waste into the wetlands restricted area, which he has been told to remove by the conservation staff during removal of his pool project. He burned the yard materials in the spring in the wetland restricted area, which we called to report, but town offices were closed due to COVID-19. Was there a fire permit obtained? He also cut cut down 3 trees within the restricted area that wasn't even on his property. Second example, another neighbor with a fence across access doors dumps their yard waste materials in the restricted wetlands, and their children go into the wetland area and destroy property, break trees and vegetation. Third example, another neighbor was in violation of putting in a patio with lighting within the 100-foot buffer zone and was triple fined for the violation due to restricted wetlands and was filling the area with illegal hazardous waste, which we reported, and the project was halted and the owner had to remove it. These are just some of the violations we reported to the Conservation Commission, and as concerned citizens, we are trying so hard to protect our natural area. During the third example, violation conservation committee meeting, the Conservation Committee stated that the surrounding wetlands need to be marked and that notices should be posted in the area to ensure that abutters are informed of the restrictions. That was never completed to date. Can this be completed this year? So that's an abutter at 41 Bruin Hill. So I think one, I met with them this morning at their house, and I think one of one of the major concerns is having a gate at the end, at the back side of the fence that just kind of invites potential violations. So that's,
Okay.
she wanted you to
Well, that's why I brought it up that I didn't have an issue with it, because it wasn't going directly into wetlands. It's going into land that's between the 50 and the 25. So, and they can still access to that area that they're concerned about without the gate.
Mhm.
I'll get some input from Mr. Mason. Jack?
I'm sorry, I had it on mute. I don't think we can penalize this applicant for misdeeds of other applicants. I think the one constructive comment would be instead of a fence, maybe a stone wall in an area where dumping would be something that would be a cause for concern, but I don't see any glaring deficiencies in this application, and I don't think this applicant should be penalized for work done by National Grid or some violations by other homeowners. That's all.
Thank you, Jack. Joe?
Hi, how you doing? I agree with everything that Jack just said as well. Some comment on suggestions for reviewing the public notification process. I mean, I think we could come under advisement. On listening to the narrative, I don't see any compelling reason to think that the system didn't work as designed. We all recognize that during this current pandemic, we're all of us making adjustments with the way business is being done, and things aren't always perfect, but we're doing a pretty darn good job. Purpose of public notice is to bring what is aware of a project and for them to be able to discuss them. And it seems like that lengthy, well-written letter accomplished exactly that. So I don't think there's, in my opinion, any flaw in the notification process. We have no obligation to monitor the Postal Service or who signs on whose behalf or whatnot. I mean, our requirement is that the notice be made and be made publicly, and that every opportunity is made to reach the right people. And I think that was accomplished here. And I have the same question with regards to the gate. We seem to be fixating on such a small thing for what otherwise was a pretty basic project that's pretty straightforward. I don't see the need for the gate. And it does, not that I would suggest that this applicant might, bring his yard waste out back, especially the history of there being no non-compliance issues as it is. I think the gate may be just drawing our attention of a possibility that hasn't been a problem thus far with a wide open backyard. Or is that fence already there?
It's already there.
So they're asking to add the gate at this point.
Yes.
So I'm going to say the fence has probably served its purpose, and if they need to get in back and do some minor maintenance, I mean, there's a way to walk around your yard and to get into those areas outside of the fence without having a gate in it. So I don't see your need for it. I also don't see that there's a problem with it. But if there's no problem, there's no need, at least one that's not made clear to me, I'd rather not see the gate. That's all I have.
Al?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have no problem with this project. From where I sit, it's a nice, clean project. Amy reported being on site and with no violations. Familiar with that area for many, many years. I appreciate the disdain for National Grid and Maritimes Northeast LLC. I still maintain that same disdain, but we can't punish everybody on their behalf. I'm also neutral on the gate. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Like Amy said, there was no violations ever recorded on this property. Access to the back, what land they have left, which is quite a bit. Would be very difficult if there was a fence there. I mean, it's their property, and they're not in any violation at all by putting a gate there. I don't think they should be penalized for certified mail or actions taken by National Grid or the gas pipeline or beavers, because that area is loaded with beaver, right, Al? and so I don't think the applicant, if the applicant wants a gate, I think we should give them a gate, because I don't think it has any impact on the wetlands. Thank you. Deb?
I thought the abutter did a very good job on assessing the whole area, and I applaud that that person to come forward and give us all of this information, and hopefully this is going to be attached to this project. As with Lou, I agree that the gate should be now, and I have no further questions. I think the project is good.
Thanks, Deb. Sean?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
So, Amy, how far from the wetland is the gate? Is the fence now? And well, I guess the better question is it vegetated right up to the 25?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Are there any markers there? Can we have some markers up there to indicate where that 25 is, if there isn't already?
You read my mind. That was an additional condition I was going to suggest.
Yeah, so I'm okay with the gate as long as we put markers up on posts that clearly identify where that line is, and as long as it maintains a vegetation up into it.
Okay.
Okay, so in that case, we need a motion.
So I recommend a -3 with 3 conditions that require pre-construction site inspection of the erosion control installed, wetland marker install, and post-construction site inspection with Conservation Department to verify as-built conditions.
So moved.
And markers.
And markers.
Second,
Yes.
second by Jack.
Okay.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, and that's unanimous.
Great. Okay. Thank
All
you.
right.
Great.
Thank you. Next one is 242-1787. Requested continue to the next meeting, which would be
July 22nd.
July 22nd. Need a motion?
So moved.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, and that's unanimous. Next one is, which I have to accuse myself, is 242-1692, 1210 Osgood Street. Al,
I am here.
defer
Yep.
to you.
Okay, thank you. I'm here. Amy,
Sure.
can you just please give us an overview of why this is in front of us tonight? What are they looking for?
Sure. Okay. So the commission will recall that this is the Signature Commons, which is the commercial part of 1210 Osgood, the front part of the site.
Right.
This part of the site was before the commission for a interim erosion control plan, which involved the construction of a temporary settling sedimentation basin, a frac tank, to capture flow off the site and manage it so that it wasn't escaping down into the finished residential side. So that's been in place for a number of months now. They are at the point where they're um, starting the footings and walls of buildings 2, 3, and 4. And that requires that they start to do utility work. Utilities are going to need to be in within part of the footprint of the sediment basin, so they want to shrink the sediment basin accordingly and allow for the building walls and footings to behave as if they're sediment basins in and of themselves, so that their footprint would be capturing the water that is falling in that area, and the floor of the buildings are not poured yet, so they're still pervious. And they provided calculations for the new footprint of the sediment basin accordingly in terms of the square footage of what the buildings would be capturing. Let's see. I have been on site at least a couple of times in the past couple of months and I have observed the basin, and it's been functioning properly. Our independent erosion control monitor with Williams and Sporagis performs weekly inspections of that site and has reported no issues. We have received monitoring reports of the effluent of the sediment basin from the frac tank, and GEI has had those with no concerns or comments from GEI on that end. And obviously it's been so dry that I would assume that it's not there, the frac tank isn't functioning just because it's been so dry. But I put in a request for any updated monitoring data. I haven't heard back yet. And so Rob DiBenedetto with Hancock Associates is with us this evening if you have questions for him.
I have questions, but we're going to go in order. I think the right way to do it is to do it in order as we have all night. So with that presentation, we'll start with Mayday Maben. Take it away.
Okay, Al. Yeah, I'm not exactly clear on the scope of this modification request. Are they asking to reduce the size of the temporary sedimentation basin and then also reduce the size of the permanent sedimentation basin that provides the same function in the permanent condition? Am I right? Did I understand that right?
I'd like to explain that. This is Robert DiBenedetto with Hancock. Hello, everyone.
Hi, Robert.
Can you hear me okay? I have you on speaker at the moment. Is that all right?
Yep.
We have you, Robert.
Great. Wonderful. Thank you. So for the first part of that question, to reduce the size of the sediment basin, I'd like to make clear that the footprints that are being built for 2, 3, and 4 are going to be completed. The foundation footprints and walls, and the concrete slab is not going to be poured until roofing, framing, and the roof drains are all installed. So we can effectively say that once those foundation walls are poured, that water will never be able to reach the temporary sediment basin. And that is the basis and the justification for reducing the size, because we can effectively reduce the area. So that's the part of the reason why we're reducing the size of the temporary sediment basin. As for the second part of the question there, once the entire site is developed, at least in this condition where 2, 3, and 4 developed, landscaping is in place, the drainage catch basins are all open and functioning, the temporary sediment basin will be reduced dramatically, if not entirely, because the only portion that will not be developed is the quote unquote building one area. And this will just be left loamed and seeded. So it will be allowed to drain naturally like any other landscaped area. If a depression is required at that time, one can certainly be created, but that is neither here nor there. What we're asking for today is just a reduction in the temporary sediment basin because we're going to be taking out these 3 footprints from the calculated area.
Okay, thank you very much for that explanation, Rob. It sounds like a reasonable justification to me. However, I do have a concern on this project that it's a complicated site, obviously, and the stormwater management design was based on many detailed calculations and review and third-party review of those calculations, and whatever changes are made, especially on the permanent design and installation, that's got to be verified by third-party review. But I know that you're not asking for that tonight, and so I have no more questions on your request for the temporary sedimentation basin.
Okay.
I'm good, Al.
Okay, thank you, Jack. Joseph?
Actually, I understand the concept and the principles behind what they're requesting. Using those foundation areas as temporary sediment control is probably more confining than the pond that we have. It's certainly a much greater area. What I want to make sure we're clear on is how that's done in an incremental fashion, because there are several building components and several parts of those buildings that would be roofed over and come online as time goes on. And what we want to make sure is that it's done in a very logical fashion where we're not going to ultimately have everything roofed over and then overwhelm whatever is left in the end. Do you have any comment on that?
Yes, I do, and thanks for bringing that up. Per the architectural plans for each of these buildings, buildings 2 and 3 are relatively flat roofs with internal pitches to an internal roof drain system. So during the construction of these 2 buildings, so once again, you'll have the foundation, footings, and the walls. They will effectively create the basin tub for these 2 buildings. And then you'll have the framing and the roofing implemented. All the while, there's no concrete slab on the bottom, so water is still allowed to infiltrate directly into the ground. And as the roof is being constructed, water will be pitched towards the center of these buildings and go into the ground. Then, when the roof drain system is hooked up to the nearby infiltration basins, the ones that are already built, the water will go effectively into the rest of the site as it was planned. And this water will be considered clean water because it never actually touches the ground. It just hits the roof. So during the process for buildings 2 and 3, once those foundation walls are up, that water will never reach the sediment basin again. Just there's no chance for it to get there because of the way the construction works. The only variation for building 4 is that some of the roofs on the roof there are pitched towards the outside. So the intent towards the construction there is that when the foundation walls and footings are put in, they're going to be building a lot of the roof drain system outside of these foundation walls, getting them prepared to accept the water. So as roofing and framing is installed and scuppers and other roof drains are installed there, they will be connected to the roof drain system. That roof drain system is already going to be connected to the existing infiltration basin in the parking lot on the backside of building 4. And because this is clean water, there's no worry about sediment transport happening within this area. So this clean water will go into that basin. So again, building 4 will be effectively cut off once the foundation walls are poured. The other thing I'd like to stress is that, like I said before, this is not going to be, there's no reduction in the temporary sediment basin until the walls are poured for all three buildings. And the environmental control monitor, Thor Agerly from William & Sparage's, he will be notified and he will confirm to Amy Maxner that this has been completed. And then therefore, we would ideally have to go ahead to make the grading changes to the sediment basin.
Okay, I've got, the explanation gave me more pause for concern than the original overview. So from a structural perspective, introducing that kind of volume of water in a centralized location into an engineered compacted soil under a floor, never mind interior piers and interior footings for the foundations, isn't a good thing. And I would want to have a sign off by a structural engineer that says that is wise, because I think it's unwise. Secondarily is the volume of water that's being put in, I think needs to be demonstrated that it can be contained within that foundation envelope, if you will. Your doorway cutouts and penetrations for piping and whatnot are all there and are all escape routes for, you know, what is otherwise clean water getting into this dirty soil and pushing its way down into the water column. And lastly is, it would seem to me that as your foundation walls are being done, your penetrations for your roof drainage and your plumbing, your sewer and your water and whatnot, fire protection, are in there. And if they are, well, why wouldn't they just plumb the roof drainage system to the permanent system and connect that pipe and have some sort of interior receiving, so when these buildings are roofed over, they actually do in fact go right in, which was your final part of your comment. So I think we've got problematic issues structurally, and what happens early on when you do have a heavy rain and the foundation perimeter might be overtopped, or there are low-level outlets where the water can get out uncontained, that we don't know about yet. I think the principle is worth developing further, but I don't think I have enough information to vote on it tonight. That's all I have.
All right. If I may respond to some of that, we can certainly look into having some structural components to verify that it can be contained within there. I would like to say that at least for the foundations during construction, if we were to do nothing here, the water would still be effectively contained inside this area and not reach the temporary sediment basin because of the way the water is going to end up traveling. It'll be going down. So that was going to happen regardless. We're just using this fact to show that the basin size for the temporary sediment basin doesn't have to be as large as originally calculated. But if you're looking for some information about the structural integrity of the walls and any openings and how to connect that, we can provide that information there.
Yeah, it's only, and again, we're not the Structural Conservation Commission. We're the Conservation Commission, but knowing enough about building structures of this sort, you know, your foundation piers, your interior piers for your columns are likely going to already be in place. And once you saturate and disturb the soil by moving it around with any sort of water volume, you've got issues. Because what you had was optimum dry density for compaction for those footings, and now you're introducing water into them. And those pier footings are obviously there because you're talking about putting the roof on. So those columns are sitting upon those piers. So I think there's something that we shouldn't disregard as part of utilizing the foundation for storage in light of being the tangential concern for structure. So I think you really need to submit something to us to even have this conversation go forward. All right.
Okay, Joe. Yep, Joe. Thank you. Robert, I'm gonna go down the table before I offer an opinion. Deb.
I have no additional questions.
Okay, thank you. Sean.
I don't have anything at this point, Al.
Okay, thank you. Robert, I'm going to agree with Joe Lynch in his assessment, and I'm just going to put the question out there. Since it's likely to be continued, at the request for more information, do you want to consider having a third party render an opinion so that you come in with everything on the same night and you don't lose any time?
Let's see, I believe we can do that, but then if that's the case, I would like to cover any other potential questions you may have now to ensure that we have all of our ducks in a row for the next meeting.
That's fair. Let me go back to the beginning of the table, see if there are any other questions or any other information that's needed. Jack, do you want to add anything?
I do not at this time.
Okay. Joe, I know you put a lot of thought into it, and do you want to add anything to that with the understanding that they're going to come back anyway?
No, not so much add, but clarify. So the determination that the foundation is adequate for storage volume, but inevitably they need to identify vulnerability of where water would be discharged from that foundation, typically door openings or box outs that are lower, or even box outs for utilities. Those areas need to be better controlled. So if those areas are known, and architecturally they must be, I think you better be prepared to show us how you're going to control the water, which would become the point source from that, i.e. siltation basin. Okay?
Okay,
yes.
Robert? And
yes.
Okay, and I guess my additional request is, or I guess it's more of a question I'm going to ask you. So we're strictly talking for the purpose of this filing, we're strictly talking about the temporary sediment basement, correct? We're not talking about any changes to the permanent stormwater structure as it is right
correct. Now. The only thing we're hoping to adjust, again, sooner than later, is that we're going to reduce the temporary sediment basin. I'm not sure if you have the plan view in front of you for viewing there, but if you do, what we're showing on the plan view is the existing sediment basin as it is now, and the way that we're reducing it. We're basically pulling it away from the existing driveway and the existing turnaround, and that will allow the general contractor to install some electric and communication conduit in that area. As it is right now, that conduit is going to be feeding basins, buildings 2, 3, and 4, and we don't have the room because the basin is there. So instead of trying to shift the whole thing over, we just want to reduce it in size. And we noted that the building footprints are, again, effectively removing this area, and subject to some additional calculations and showing that the elevations work, which they do, but we will be able to prove that at a later time. We feel that we can effectively decrease the size of that basin as a result.
All right, so that's what we're asking you. I guess in addition to what Joe is asking you, that's the kind of proof we're looking for from you, or if you have a third party that can corroborate your information, that would be helpful, and it would probably expedite the next hearing.
All right, and then next hearing is July 22nd, I believe.
Yeah.
That's my understanding because of the holiday week. So Amy, am I correct on that?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. So that would give you plenty of. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I was just going to ask, assuming that with everything presented at the next meeting, and it's to the satisfaction of the Conservation Commission, would they be able to make a ruling at that time and say, okay, and then when building 4, 3, and 2 are all complete with footprints, we could then just get the approval from William Asparagus, who will then notify Amy Maxner, and then we can move ahead with the reduction of the basin.
I don't think I can promise that to you, but
okay.
I think that would just be premature to even go there. But I think the more information you can bring and the more validation to your opinion you can bring to the next meeting would be a lot easier. Give us that level of confidence that we need. This, as you may have to agree, it's a complicated project. It's maxed out, so we really need to be really careful with every aspect of it, even things like this.
I understand.
I have a quick question.
Yes, ma'am.
Joe, do you want them to have some sort of structural engineer opinion as well about introducing water into the footprints?
Well, I think the same conversation we just had tonight needs to be had with their project structural engineer.
Okay.
And that a letter of finding or letter of summarizing that conversation in their opinion be made part of our file.
Okay.
I think it's only because the conversation is so much part of the validity of controlling the runoff from the site that, God forbid, we had a structural problem while we're using this as a water control area and have something fail, it could be a problem. So I think we really need to have their engineer submit something to us as a formal document.
And that would be more so once they have flat roofs on, is that right? Or
No, they need, they can calculate all that ahead of time. I mean, again, I'm working on simple principles of logic, and sometimes that's not always, factual, but it seems to me the last thing you want to do once you have your soils inside a foundation and your foundation piers, those interior square concrete slabs, put the column set on. Once you have them in place, the last thing you want to do is be moving large volumes of water through the water column and disturb the very compaction you built upon.
okay,
But yeah, they need to do that ahead of time, beforehand.
okay.
Joe, just a comment about that. I'm a civil engineer. I'm certainly not a construction manager. So the ins and outs of the sequencing, I'm gathering information from the GC regarding that. But it was my understanding that this approach they were taking towards the construction of these buildings was going to happen this way regardless of the sediment basin. The intent was to put in the walls, put in the framing, the roofing, the system, pour in the slab at the very end. And this was always going to be the process. And again, I'm not a GC, so I don't always know how exactly the sequencing, but as my understanding, this is a general way of designing this. So is there anything that is especially alarming to the Conservation Commission with this process, and something that we should really be honing in on here? Because if it's the typical normal way of construction, then us removing the sediment basin, again, given that we can show that it can actually encase it like a tub, then that just seems like a natural result that we could then use to our advantage.
Yeah, I think you need to get your construction folks to talk to the structural guys. You would not typically roof over the whole roof and have a couple of penetrations where the roof drain. I'm not sure if these have one or two places where they come down, but channelizing all the water to a concentrated area and have it just simply lay on the floor isn't what would normally be done. You would normally have it, collecting down into an area that would go into that roof drain pipe that was already in your undergrounds, so it wouldn't be accumulating in the building. So I think you need to talk to construction folks and have them make it clear to the engineer of what they might be doing out there, to the structural engineer what they might be doing out there.
Okay. Yeah, I think we can effectively prove that in one way or another. Either structural will be able to satisfy the request about the integrity of any of the columns, or we can show that it will be connected when they install the roofs and the roof drain system to the stubs for the roof drains as it is now. And either way, we can prove that.
System, again, if I'm looking at the overall plan, the roof drainage system, is it piped to a facility that's already in place on the site?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, so it would seem to me they want to probably pull their undergrounds into the building and channelize the water to that with some sort of siltation control at that location and let it get into the system.
Right, and that's where there's a little bit of a, yes, you're correct. That is the general approach for that. So if that is the easiest way to show that this can be done, and that's what they're going to implement with their sequencing, and it's documented, then that's what they'll show. If it makes more sense for them just to let water land in there, and then they put in all the system on the outside and connect it, and then they'll show it that way as well. Either way, we'll provide some supporting calculations that prove that once the walls are up, it is effectively cut off from the sediment basin.
Okay, and I don't want to go into so much detail that I'm suggesting a construction approach for you guys to follow. I really want it to be your team's idea of how they're doing it, run by your structural engineer and submitted to us for review. So, you know, obviously let your folks do your thing, but those are my concerns.
I understand. I'll make sure they understand that too.
Okay, any other questions from anybody? Amy, anything else from you?
Nope.
Okay, so we're looking to continue till July 22nd.
Yep.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? There is none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? And that's unanimous. We'll continue. Thank you all.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Rob.
Mr. Chairman,
I'm here.
you have the gavel.
Thank you. Next one is under general business, new business, old business, 300 Abbott Street, Sergeant School, clogged roof infiltrator system.
Okay. So Steve Foster, our facilities director, had asked me to accompany him out to Sergeant School a week or so ago. They discovered that the roof drainage system is clogged, which basically consists of pipes from the roof into manholes and then into a perforated pipe that is basically in some spots kissing the wetland line. And the proposal is to replace the existing perforated pipe with a Storm Tech infiltration chamber, which is a stone bottom and that half moon plastic chamber for storage, and install additional upgradient manholes for better and earlier access to inspect and clean, and add screens to the inlets on the roof. Excavation for the new chambers will probably, in some spots, be possibly into the wetland, but all of it's in the 25-foot no disturb zone, which is currently mowed as lawn. I had recommended with Joe's input that DPW and Steve prepare some sort of long-term O&M for the stormwater devices on the site. And they did provide, you know, at least a start to that in their packet. And I believe that the town or the DPW is looking for either emergency certification or an enforcement order to allow for this to proceed during the currently dry time. And I can get into the school construction permit history if you want right now, or we can wait on that.
Okay. Well, we do questions. Jack?
Yeah, no, I understand what they're trying to do and the situation they're in. I want to help them the best I can. You know, the school children may be back in the fall, and this is the time to do it for sure. And looking at those pictures, it's a dire situation for sure. I guess my questions have to do with is there a way to improve the impact to the wetlands? You know, we're talking about the location of the system, discharging, you know, right at the wetland edge. We try and avoid that, get some kind of treatment prior to entering the wetland, you know, on a typical situation like this. And I guess my question is there any way to avoid or at least minimize you know, the impact of a point source discharge to the wetland itself? And then you know, I looked at the bare bones, the skeleton O&M plan, and definitely we definitely want to get a little bit more detailed on that too. Like, you know, it says periodic cleaning of detention pond, periodic cleaning of roof gutters. I think we want to get a little bit more specific on that, you know, whether it's biannual for the gutters at least, So I'd like to get a little bit more specific on that. So that's really all my input at this point.
Thanks. Jack? Joe?
Yeah, Amy and I had an opportunity to talk about this. I've gone out and walked around the site myself and got a first-hand feel for it. The work they're proposing to do, there's no denying the necessity of it. The timeliness in this particular dry stretch, with the exception of today's thunderstorm, is probably the right time to do it. I think the permitting background is a somewhat colorful thing that we need to identify. We don't want to reward past non-compliance or past inattention, but in the same token, we don't want to hold the project up. That's why I thought an emergency certification or an enforcement order might be the appropriate mechanism. The reason being is we don't have an order, we don't have a certificate of compliance on the site, and we don't really know if it was actually ever built in accordance with the original permitting plan. And my recollection takes us back to the early to mid 90s, might be very early 90s. So to think we're going to get it now is just ridiculous. But I think, some of the more important things like mowing and maintenance and maintaining setbacks, I think is something that we have to know about. What it wasn't clear on Amy's summary, I want to make sure I am, is that I thought I heard you say that putting the Caltech StormTech chambers in would be in the wetland, but mostly in the 25. So are there areas where they are actually in wetland?
I think the existing pipe is in a couple spots, not all spots. I think maybe kissing the wetland line. And the contractor just explained to me that, they have to overdig on either side of this trench. So they're going to have to go further beyond where the existing perforated pipe is now to get that new StormTech system in.
So I really have two concerns with that statement, and I think everybody would understand it. Certainly, if you're in the wetland or even kissing the line, how is it even possible that you're maintaining 2-foot groundwater separation for infiltration? You're simply not. So that's not possible. And the second part of that question is, since it is not possible, can it be moved up gradient? Is there an opportunity to move it up gradient to make it work?
So I know,
especially if what we know, I mean, the root intrusion and the stuff that's in the pipes there now is probably because it's in the wetland and promoting that growth of roots, or the intrusion of roots. Caltrack will be no different. In fact, it'll be a bigger volume, so the roots would probably take hold in a bigger mass. I think that the understanding of the necessity and the urgency is completely understood, but I think this needs to be thought out more clearly of what it is they're looking to do and where. And that's what I have.
I know that Steve Foster's with us this evening, so I want to give him a chance to respond if he'd like.
Okay. Why don't you wait? There's going to be several other questions. Unless you want, let Steve, you want to attack it now, or you want to wait?
Steve,
Okay.
are you
Well,
with us?
Steve Foster, you there?
You might be muted, Steve. *6.
Okay. Well, we'll just continue with that discussion. Al?
Hi guys. So I know that this has a long history. Obviously, it dates back to 1989, 88. So I have two opinions. My first opinion is we ought to give them an emergency enforcement order, an emergency certification to get the work going right away. But we should, in my opinion, not close out these COCs, but rather take advantage of the opportunity right now to try to make some improvements and repairs in conjunction with the emergency cert. If that makes any sense, that's my take right now. Subject to change. Thank you.
Thanks. Joe, I agree with you 100% with the Caltech chambers. How deep are they going? There's no, unless I'm missing a narrative reading, how deep it's going. I mean, we're gonna put these Caltech chambers in the water table? I mean, I don't know what we're gaining here. Steve hopefully Steve will come on board. And I'm agreeing with Al also that we should let them proceed accordingly. But I just want to make sure it's done right. And I also, I heard Amy told me about that we don't have COC, therefore we don't have an as-built plan. It's not good. This is the second school building that doesn't have an as-built. One of them being the high school, and I've been trying to get that for many years, and they're telling me they don't have enough money for it.
Well,
and
you know, that's
yes,
a funny thing. That's a funny thing about that, Lou, because that high school came in $6 million under bid. So there should have been ample money to produce an as-built. That thing came in way under. It was well run when it was built, and there was no reason for anybody to say, you know, we don't have any money. They just simply diverted it somewhere else. But that's politics that I don't want to get into here.
No,
but certainly it's a fertile field if we decide to. So I would let Mr. Foster get started with proposing what needs to be done ASAP. But I wouldn't close anything out, and I'd find a way to start working on that.
yeah.
I just would, whatever we have to do.
I hope Steve is on the air now. Is Steve on the air?
Yeah, I'm back. Yeah, I'm back, Louis. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can. Steve, I just have a question, and you can maybe the digging of the trench. How deep is it? Where Caltech chambers are going to go?
Well, estimating from where the outlet of the manhole was that surcharged, that outlet invert is probably about 3 feet down from rim, approximately.
Okay, that's enough. That's enough depth for the chambers.
I can't speak to that engineering, but it does say on the cross section varies 2 feet minimum on the seepage trench detail that was provided at the initial construction, Lou.
Okay, because I know when I had to do the ones at my building, they probably went in 5 feet deep.
Really?
And my concern is that this project is that you're going to be in the water table. So I'd be a little cautious. Say, yeah, okay, you guys can do it, and you start digging, and you end up in the water table, and those Caltech chambers don't do anything because they're going to be full of water all the time. So I mean, it's only for your protection. I don't want you to get into a project that it won't function. Spend all this money on a project that won't function. So aside from that, I don't have an issue with it. But I do have an issue with the other guy that I talked to is COC. There's some outstanding orders. COC has not been completed, and so then that means that there's no as built on this property, and I think all town buildings should have as built, so we know what we're dealing with.
Right.
There's this one, and I've been trying to get the one for high school, and there's a $50,000 outstanding bond. The company's gone out of business, and you didn't tell me, but they've come before us and said that there isn't enough money to get an answer for high school. And while I got you, I figured I might as well ask you. At some point, we should really look into that.
Okay, I will speak to Mr. Mealy about that tomorrow. I didn't know there was a bond outstanding, Lou. I do know the COC, the ASBIL rather, the high school is outstanding. I wasn't aware, Sergeant, until Mamie mentioned it recently. I'll speak to Jim, see if I can move that along.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. And like I said, I would find out what the depth is of this drainage work. And I'm pretty sure that water table is pretty high there, but I can't recollect exactly.
Lou, it's Joe again. I got Steve's back on. Let me just ask the question outright and point out. I'm looking at the sketch, the cross section of AL8 seepage trench detail that you submitted along with this. So if you look at the Caltech chamber, and then you have 1 foot or 12 inches of stone wash.
Right.
you would need to do a test pit along your trench, several test pits, and show us where the water table is. That should be something that's either visually seen as standing water, not indicative this time of year, by the way, or looking at the modeling in the soil. Your bottom, so the 2 foot varies down to the Caltech and then the 1 foot of stone, that has to be 2 feet above the water. So right at the very simplest, you're looking at 3, and if your infiltration chamber is even 2 feet, you're looking at 5, leaves another foot of cover. Boy, oh boy, from the photograph that you submitted with the application, I don't think you've got it. I think you're in the water table. So, as much as we want to give you permission, probably even through an emergency certification, step 1 needs to be do test pits, determine the water table, come up with a design that kicks everything 2 feet above the water table at the lowest point, and then show us where it's going to go. Because we're on board with this, but right now, it seems like we might be giving you permission to do nothing, meaning doing something that has no useful purpose whatsoever. You're still going to be in the water. And it's the last thing that anybody wants to do, waste money.
Oh, I'm with you on that one, Joe.
So I think we need test pits. We need to know where that water table is in this area where the work's proposed. All right? And,
okay, so we got to verify.
If we did an emergency certification tonight, that expires in 30 days. So that's probably not the vehicle we can do tonight. So that, I think we're looking at the very most is a enforcement order. We're required to require and allow the test pits to be conducted, and then to allow the work to proceed in the designated locations so long as 2 foot separation to water table is maintained. I think that's what we could theoretically do verbally. That's a huge leap of faith. We would do it for nobody else.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
I'm all set, Deb.
Can I have a?
I'm all set, Deb.
I think Amy wanted to talk.
I didn't mean to cut anyone off.
Well, let's get the
Commission. Okay, go ahead.
commission. Deb.
I have nothing else to add, but I think that, we're on the right path, and I think that, once all of these things with the enforcement order and the as-built are finalized, I think it's going to be a good project, and we're going to be able to clean up something that wasn't really built properly.
Okay. Sean?
No questions at this point, Lou.
All right. Okay, Amy, I'm sorry. I
No,
need to cut you off.
No. I did it to you. So I'm just curious, what would the benefit be to allowing for replacement in kind of a perforated pipe just to get the clogging situation fixed? And then they could proceed with a more comprehensive design, or is that silly?
I would say that the existing drainage system, it's failed based on non-maintenance, as I can see from the pictures. I don't like Joe says, if he can prove that the chambers aren't on the water table, I think it can proceed with as designed.
So, question, because isn't the location of the manholes the driving factor of where this trench goes? We'd have to move the manholes up, right?
Amy, this is Steve Foster. You would have to move them up gradients from where they are if you propose to relocate the trenches. And just to add to that, it looks like I can go about maybe 10 feet up gradient before I hit what is a perimeter access road. That is a 2 concrete cheek walls with a gravel base. So that's about the maximum I could potentially see moving this based on the diagram I'm looking at.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if that's something the commission would want to entertain. I don't know. It's just a thought.
Oh, Joe, you have any questions on what Amy said?
Yeah, I unmuted Lou because I thought I'd chime in on that too. I think I don't want the use a cliche like the tail's wagging the dog, but the reality is here, we want to collect the roof drainage and infiltrate it properly. In the pipe that as it is now, we don't have an as-built, so we don't know if it was built according to plan or according to design. We don't know if it was maintained. We don't know why it failed. But I guess it's likely to have failed because it may have in fact been not designed of the water table, which is why it is we require it to be 2 feet above the water table to minimize that interaction and to maintain a higher level of water quality when we do infiltrate. So I think we need to know, rather than simply say, let's put a pipe back in the ground, or let's put a storm tech system in the ground, what we need to do is let's put it in the ground properly in the right location so it works. And those obstacles that we face to make it work, we need to understand and allow for facilities department to carry it out and get it done timely. But I think, their understanding of the need is appropriate. Their recognition and the willingness to get it done is appropriate, but we don't have enough information and they don't have enough information to know how to do it and do it right. And with that absence of where the groundwater is like the only missing element. As long as we can get it above that, we can work around where it goes. The fact that it's kissing the wetland only suggests there's no way it's 2 feet above the water table. The wetland's there because of the water table.
Exactly.
So I can tell you the pipe's is not at the right elevation. It may not be in according to the design. And if it is, then it wasn't designed properly. Those are the things that have to play into it. And until we know where the water table is, we're just spinning our wheels. And I don't think any of us want to spend a penny on quote unquote fixing something that doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We had one of those a few years ago on a retention pond up on Sutton Hill. Remember, Joe?
I remember that.
So we just, see, I have all the respect in the world for you. I would feel I don't feel comfortable with no depth of the water table.
Yeah. So can I offer a thought here? So I can get ARCO out there to dig some test pits. We can be right on that. Who would be determining the water table? Is that Amy that would come out and do the inspection, look for modeling lines to verify that?
Or
do I have to hire an engineer?
Well, John Borghese could do it.
John Borghese, okay. All right,
Should
can do that.
Oh, I'm sure.
So-
I'm sure you guys don't want to install a drainage system that doesn't work. So
Oh, absolutely not, Lou. I want it done right.
So,
Yep.
if the water table is what it is, then you're gonna have to come up with something else and to make it, that we can use to make it work. Like Joe said,
Right.
the drainage pipe
Yeah.
that's in place right now, we don't even know if it's in the right place as it was designed for, because we never got an
Mhm.
as-built.
Right, yeah, here. So if we did the test bits, talk me through this, and we go out, we verify that we have this 2 feet that you mentioned, Joe, between bottom of chamber and water table.
It's not
Would it be
being,
possible to proceed?
Steve, just be
Go
clear,
ahead.
it's not below bottom of chamber, it's below the foot of crushed stone that's below the chamber. So it's
Okay.
actually a foot below the chamber, then the 2 feet has to be provided.
Got it, okay. So given that, if we verify that the water table is acceptable with the current outlet elevations we have, how do we proceed from there? Do I come back in another month and talk to you in July? Is that the way these things go? You continue it? Talk me through that if you would.
And that's why early on, Amy and I had talked about either a emergency certification or an enforcement order. So the emergency certification, unfortunately, has a very short fuse. It's only good for 30 days. And that does not work given what we're now talking about. So the enforcement order, in my earlier statement, as I think it through, still makes sense that we issue an enforcement order to require that the roof drain collection and infiltration system be repaired. And that first, we allow and require that test pits be conducted to determine where the groundwater elevation is. And that if the new Caltech system can be put in the same location and 2 feet above the water table, if all of those can be done to allow the work to go forward. If the test pit results show that that doesn't work, or if the location is in fact different than the plan, then I'm afraid you do have to come back. But I think I'm willing to go that extra distance to give you the ability to do the test pits. And by default, if anything gives you bad information, you have to stop. But if you continue to receive good information verified by staff, that allows you to complete this project timely.
Okay.
Joe, can't we extend the emergency cert? Because you said it's good for 30 days. Oh, no. We're meeting within 30 days.
No, it can't be extended. Emergency certification truly is for catastrophic things, and there's no extension provision. It's good for 30, and that's it.
Well, then why don't we do an enforcement order?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I said. That was my suggestion.
Yeah, that's what.
Yeah. So what we should do is do an I'm game. An enforcement order, then we can extend it, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Enforcement order, we can put any deadline on it we want. We can require them to complete the work before next July if we want. But we could also make it, before school reopens in the fall.
Well, I'm sure that's what their plan is.
Yeah, that is correct, Lou. I have a limited window here. And actually,
and we'll do cartwheels for you, but we just want it to work.
Yep, I 100% with you. Yep.
Okay, so we're gonna do an enforcement order, I take it, and we'll make it. We'll make it 30 days. Is that a good number?
No. I'd give them 90 days.
Well, we can
give them 90.
Okay.
They're gonna use the time that they need before school reopens, but I don't want to constrain them that they have to, stop working and wait to come back. So yeah, I'd give them 90 days.
Okay. Yeah, and they can just once they find their water table, we can move forward.
Yeah, these pipes didn't plug yesterday. So if it takes 90 days, it'll probably have a lot better than the past 5 years that it hasn't been working.
Okay, so we need a motion for enforcement order, correct? Or we got to ratify an enforcement order?
No, motion to issue.
Motion? Motion to issue one.
I move to
So
issue
moved.
an enforcement.
Okay, we have a motion and a
Second by Jack.
all those.
The motion, just make sure the provisions of the enforcement order are specified. So to allow or to require the test bits be done to determine seasonal high groundwater table, and to then verify the location of the Caltech chambers as compared to the existing pipes, as compared to the water table, and should they be in the same location and 2 feet above seasonal high groundwater, to allow the work to continue for the replacement work with erosion controls and pre-construction inspections. And then, and then lastly, more definitively, is that if the groundwater table is to be determined to not be more than 2 feet from the bottom of the system, that they had to stop, redesign the system and submit a design within the 90 days. Does that sound reasonable?
Sounds good.
Second.
Good. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? And that's unanimous. All right, Steve, you got your marching orders. Good luck.
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate your cooperation.
Good night, Steve.
Thank you.
Good night. Bye-bye.
Okay.
All right.
See, Amy, you thought it was going to be easy.
I know. Oh, well. All right, so let's see. What do we
Next
got?
one is decision time. 242-1784 Barker Street Culvert.
Okay, so I emailed that to you guys this afternoon. Let's see here, let me pull it up. Where is it? Here we go. Okay. So do you guys have it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So I thought it was appropriate to do a little bit of finding of fact and give a little history and frame of reference. So condition number 37, I want to make sure it's appropriate. I know Joe wanted atomization of the dewatering discharge, but I'm not sure if I got it correct.
You're using the right word. I'm not sure a contractor's going to fully understand that. What I really want to do is dissipate the discharge over a large area in very fine misting of spray capabilities, as opposed to simply pumping 600 gallons a minute to a point source discharge, which is what they were proposing. So I think this does that.
Joe, shouldn't that be in the bid spec?
No, that's prior to the sending out the RFP. We want to see the specification before they put it into the RFP or prior to the bid.
Okay.
So that, I think it's in two places. It was required to do that in the spec, and then elsewhere and during construction, we probably should say under the dewatering section what that really means, right?
Okay. All right.
Is that something you've done before on other projects, Joe?
Yes, I used a fire pumper truck with a suction line and was able to discharge 1,100 gallons a minute with deck cannons sprayed into the air. And by the time, it was like a fine rain downstream. It just rained in the forest. No erosion whatsoever.
That is so cool.
The DPW may need some direction on that, I suspect.
I've got a great video I can show you guys. When the first time I concocted it, everybody said it wouldn't work, and the conservation agent says, "I've never seen that before." I said, "I've never done it before." I'm glad it worked.
Nice. All right.
All right, so you want it in the bid spec, and you want it to be something that we review prior to construction in the field, right?
Well, yeah. I guess it's three locations then. One is we want to be certain it ends up in the specs. We want to see that spec.
Yep.
And that's just the generalized note. I think your condition 37 does that well enough.
Okay.
Then we do have pre-construction. We want the contractor to tell us, tell us what you're really going to do here.
Mm-hmm.
And then what we want to do is under the dewatering, make sure that there be no point source discharge and that the discharge of water will be broadcast over a wide area, minimizing erosion.
All right. Got it.
So I think the structure of the order conditions, I think we do have, right? We have pre-construction and then we have dewatering.
Yep. Dewatering is in during construction, I believe.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, good. So I'll make sure I'll put that in all those three areas. Condition number 40. I think I captured what you guys talked about for the bond.
I'm going to defer to Sean on the word performance bond because that may confuse a contractor. There's a performance bond to ensure performance of the construction process. it's a wetland protection bond,
Okay,
we want to call it in this case, probably.
That's what I would do. But Amy, like I said, we want to make sure DPW doesn't rely on that bond, that they rely on their own.
yes. Yeah, okay. So we gotta name it something more.
Wetlands protection bond. That's
Okay.
perfect.
Okay. And 20 grand sounds reasonable?
I think so, Joe, yeah.
That's being posted by the contractor, the eventual bid winner.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, that's appropriate then.
That's just for the wetlands part. The bridge and the DPW will post their own bond on the roadway and the culvert and all that stuff.
Okay,
So
understood.
There'll be two bonds. Okay.
Again, putting this in the context of a publicly bid project, the general conditions of that bid is likely to talk about surety bonds or performance bonds, which is simply insured paper. It's truly a surety. We want to make sure we use the word cash in here.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. It has to say cash.
Yeah.
It has to be as plain as it can be, because otherwise it could be a 10% bond.
Got it.
Yeah, that's no good.
That's no good at all. Only if you're getting bailed out of jail. Other than that, it's no good. Just saying.
No comment.
I think condition 43, I want to give a different language, just to say appropriate erosion controls per the approved plans, as opposed to saying you must have this. That
I would prefer to somehow, if it doesn't say it in there already, have all discretion up to the administrator with respect to all aspects of the erosion controls.
okay.
Yeah.
How they
I thought we
deploy
did that on pre-construction.
Okay. Does it have to be repeated then, or is this good as stands?
I thought the erosion control was set by
no,
the
wait,
administrative law.
It says it in there. I see it now. All additional prevention and it's already there. It's there. I'm happy.
Oh,
All
okay.
set.
All
Yeah,
right.
it's already there. I couldn't read fast enough, Amy. I got it now.
Sorry, I stepped out for a second. Was that condition 43 you guys were just talking about?
Yes.
43, yeah.
Okay, I see it there too. Okay.
Yeah, it gives the administrator all the discretionary authority that she needs.
Okay.
That's nice.
Okay.
Do we, they intend to put a cofferdam in, maybe at least on one side, if not two, correct? Where do you talk about that?
Actually, I don't think I did. I missed that. Sorry.
I want to be careful that, the methodology and the materials and the approaches is discussed with you pre-construction, and that during or even after construction, that it's clear that all remnants of the cofferdam be removed, and any excess, it's inevitable that if they're using sandbags, the sand's going to spill out, but they need to restore the bottom of the channel with native material. But you can't do the work without a cofferdam, really, so it's not like we should say no.
Right. Okay.
Especially that site there.
Yeah.
All right. And returning bottom. Okay.
So, Amy, might I suggest if you look at condition 58,
Okay.
inserting after 58 should be the discussion of the cofferdam.
Okay.
because it's really talking about harvesting, is this native stream bed material and stockpiling? That's the material you're gonna be putting back in place when the cofferdam is removed, so I think it seems to make sense that the cofferdam discussion comes right after that.
Okay. All right. Okay. So for the wetland replication, I know the norm is to make them do the replication first, but I really think that things are just gonna get mucked up.
That's a waste on this. This is a project in the stream bed.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's no sense doing any of that ahead of time. So that's
okay.
all going to be at the end of the construction. They're putting a if it's a box culvert, they're going to be putting a gravel floor under it.
Yeah.
That's what they're going to do. It's an actual box, right, with gravel brought in.
Right.
Yeah. So that's you're going to also want that material on the upstream side to kind of work its way into the gravel and form a natural bed.
Okay.
Yeah. So you want to do restoration afterwards, or replication afterwards.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely. Don't waste the seed.
Right. Okay. All right.
They have, I'm getting ahead of myself, we got a whole pit. The dewatering plan, which I know we're gonna have plenty of, is it been approved, or do they have one on the spec?
Yes.
Oh, they do, okay.
Yep. With with the amendments that Joe would want for, diffusing the discharge.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. So condition number 76, curious if you guys wanted any kind of post-construction monitoring of this culvert's performance during specified storm events. Or not, I don't know.
Good luck.
Wishful thinking?
Well, I don't know. Is it necessary?
I don't know. I just a thought.
No, you can put it there. Will it happen? No. But
Well, I think it'll happen. I'm just wondering.
They're not going to salt. They're not going to salt Barker Street. I find it hard to believe.
Well, you got to remember, don't lose sight of the fact that there's a culvert upstream of this culvert.
Right.
So the flow is already mitigated by the first culvert. It's not. This is not an open water catching it all.
Right.
So I don't know. I mean, you could put it there, but I mean, I don't think it's going to be a problem.
Okay. We don't have to.
Okay.
Amy, did you resolve condition 74?
74, accepted engineering construction standards and procedures will be followed in completion. That's standard. That's.
No, I'm sorry. I might not be looking at the most recent one. It's, should we have a condition that requires monitoring or reporting of the culvert's performance during certain storm events?
Right. I think everyone thought probably not.
I see no need for it. The stream crossing standards dictates the size, not the hydrology.
Yeah.
So, the water is going to be flowing a lot slower through this new culvert than it ever did out of the old culvert. So it's going to move more water
when it needs to at a lower, speed.
Okay.
So-
Yeah, I agree. Okay, so eliminate that.
Yep.
Yep.
And 79, you
Yeah.
just leave it in there. You don't. It's not applicable, but it's. I don't want to take it out of our boilerplate.
Mm.
I got highlighted.
Can we go to number 76 just for 1 second?
Sure.
Can we add? Is anybody think if it's a good idea or not? Can we add that they post a sign certifying that it's a no salt zone on the road for purpose of ice control? Is that a bad idea?
Yeah, Al, I'll be truthful. You could put that, but
Yeah.
nobody will read it. If not, they'll run it over the wing. You know, that's an important. I did that once at Mass Highway, and I almost got my head bit off about
Yeah.
low salt areas. Even the town. I mean, they run right along Lake Kachiklik with the salt gate wide open. So I mean.
Well, you know, I mean, why don't we, if nobody disagrees strongly, why don't we just put it in there and it's in there, you know?
I agree, Al. I think it should be in there.
Yeah, I agree too.
It's a shame that people don't do what they're supposed to do and comply with the law, Lou.
Well, I think,
So
I think they will if we put it in there.
Yeah, good.
Well, it's just turning down a dial, right?
You're gonna have to ask the pros at that, Amy. I don't spread salt, so I don't know.
I was going this time, but Louis and I are.
Joe, fire away.
We're being practical here. Nobody's ever going to do it. They're on a anti-icing run. They're going to run the whole street the same way. Even if you put up no salt zone signs, you're going to ignore them. So we could keep a condition in. I hate saying it's a feel-good condition. It's just like our fertilizer and pesticide, but it's what it is. But even to the signs, you're just not going to get it in the end.
So let's
just set on that. I mean, we can leave it in and just please don't expect any sort of level of compliance. It's unrealistic.
I won't even be out there watching, but I'll feel better if we put it up.
Exactly.
At least we're not cursing the darkness.
That's all.
Ooh.
There it is.
There it is.
Mayday Maven comes through.
Yeah. I mean, it's a slippery slope. We could talk about that no salt areas forever. It's unenforceable. It's unpoliced. But I mean, if you want to put a sign up,
let's tell them.
Let's put the sign up. I'm just saying that even if there was a sign, you wouldn't get compliant.
Yeah.
Well, this way here, at least we're doing our part. We'll put the sign up, we'll post it, and on either way approaching it, and we've done our part.
Yeah, because if not, we can have Amy stand out there every snowstorm and make sure they put spread salt.
So Al, your comment, I just want to make sure I didn't lose the meaning of it. If we are going to put signs up, we need to put it in this condition. No salt signs should be put X number of feet either side of the culvert.
Yes, that's what I'm asking. Yes.
All right. So,
that's my request, Joe.
Say make it 300 feet on either side of the culvert. Put no salt signs if that's where you're going.
Yeah, that's all I'm looking for, Joe. Just a sign on either end, because we're in the condition we're saying no sodium-based products. So why not just put the sign up to bolster that highlighted sentence, and then good. I'm all set. I'm happy.
I agree. Joe, explain to the rest of the commission what freezes first: bridges over water and overpasses. Correct?
Yes. And inevitably, those culverts are in the low points, and it's always the lowest elevations trapped in the dells that freeze first. So not only do we have an open area with water, we actually have it in a low area. So it's probably one of the more flash freeze areas in town. Not in town, but on that stretch of road.
Well, what might happen is what we might get is an unintended consequence. We might get a motorist that reads that and says, "Maybe I better slow down. They're not salting here."
I'm done
You get a better-
debating. I
you get a
agree
better
with
chance
the
of being
feel-good thing. Let's get it in there. If we get it in there, let's get the signs up. Let's say that in here, and that's the end of that debate on my front.
So I say, yeah, that's all I'm saying. Yeah, let's do it. Let's move along. Let's put it in and move along.
All right, sorry.
What's
We'll suck it up time.
I'm sorry, what's the
Could be-
distance?
Amy, what was that?
What was the distance?
300, well, I don't know what the wetlands are, because it says within 100 feet of the wetland. Is it the brook itself, or are there BVWs adjacent to the brook? I'd simply say to cover it, just say 300 feet either side of the culvert. That gives a 600-foot stretch that's never been protected before.
There you go. There you go. That's
Okay.
excellent. Perfect.
And could these signs be substantially sized? So it isn't just a small thing so people could just gloss over it or ignore it.
No, they have a standard size, Deb. They have a standard.
Exactly.
Oh,
MUTC tells you what size based on the speed limit and what you're trying to warn against.
Yeah, so that's all figured out, Deb. It's already calculated.
Okay.
Do you have a preference on the color, Deb?
They're it's all standard. There's no.
I do, and I do.
Now that was that was Mayday getting in another one.
We'll make it any color you want, Jack.
Oh, man.
All right, Mayday. That was a good one, buddy.
I want Deb to have her color.
Well, and I think it's a sad state of affairs that if there is something that you should comply with, that people ignore it. I mean, we have expectations. We cannot lower our expectations.
Well said. Let's move on.
Very good.
Okay.
All right. Any more questions on 242-1748?
No.
I'd like to move it as amended.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Opposed, and that's unanimous.
Okay.
Excellent job.
Next one is 242-1786.
And that's 410 Summer Street for the pool rehab.
This should go fairly good.
Condition 31, Amy, limited project, does it even apply here, or might it apply, are you guys concerned that it might apply in the future?
It's sort of a standard condition that you guys have in there.
I think that's a good one to have, Joe. That's a good one to have there.
That's what I'm thinking. In this particular property, it might be appropriate.
Yeah, okay.
So, there's a lot of activity there. Is everybody happy with the bond? I think the bond is a little bit low, but
What condition is that, Louis?
condition number 41, it's 50.
41. Hold on.
$1,500.
I didn't know. I just threw out a number.
Yeah.
Yeah. Amy, refresh my memory. Was this replacing a pool in the same location in kind, or there was an expansion of the pool area?
No.
Patio area?
In kind.
So if it was brand spanking new, I'd say the number should be higher, but where it's in kind and really only because of where it was, really before us, probably not a bad enough.
The problem is just this pool, if it was in today's standards, would not have been built. We would have denied it. So that's why I just want to make sure that everything is compliant when it goes back together.
Yeah, but if it's in kind, that's a good number for an in kind replacement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're in the 25. Okay.
You know, actually, I'm going to backpedal on what I said. When you talk about the activity, putting a new one in is less invasive as tearing the old one out and putting a new one back in its place. So let's bump it to 2,000 and move on.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Amy, were there any other violations out there other than just him starting the work without a permit?
No, just.
He else was compliant?
Yep.
Yeah, I'm okay with 2.
Okay. Seems pretty straightforward. Any questions?
Let's see, did I talk about the plantings? Yeah, I did.
I saw that. Yeah, you did.
All right.
I think you said 2 years.
All right.
Yeah, 10 shrubs, 2 to 3 feet.
Yep.
Let's talk about just the phrase that you use, as directed by the Conservation Department. Would you rather have, I think I would rather have them submit a proposed planting plan a planting species, a plant list that you approve. I don't want it to be that we tell them to use something, especially in the event of failure. We may be accused of applying the wrong plants.
Okay.
Yeah, we're not designing their project.
Correct.
Yeah, I think they should be submitting a plant list to us and approved by the department.
And it should be, it should be, there should be a qualified scientist or botanist or arborist participating in it, like the conversation we had earlier tonight with the other applicant. You got to have somebody that knows what they're doing,
Yep. All right.
And that'll diminish the debate if you're dealing with somebody that understands the same language.
In fact, that other applicant that you're referring to was in fact trying to do exactly what I was concerned about, was trying to put the burden on Amy to select plants that are going to choke off the vine.
That's why we had that conversation. Yep.
Yeah.
Just, Amy's a landscape designer also.
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot to tell you that.
One call does it all.
We don't design projects.
All right, if anybody doesn't have any questions, look for motion.
Condition 71, any pool drawn down discharge shall be directed outside the 100-foot buffer zone.
Oh, yep.
Let's just be specific on that.
Yep.
So you want to add the 100-foot buffer zone? Add 100.
Yeah, just add 100 feet. Yeah.
Yeah, agreed. Good idea.
Well, then in that case, they'll be dumping it in the street.
Okay. That's fine.
Yeah. Then it becomes a DPW's problem.
Yeah, that takes it right out of our area.
They got room out front, Yolande.
All right, so if nobody objects, I'll move it as amended.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous.
Okay. I got
motion.
No,
Got it?
no, not yet. I got a couple
Motion.
things. Nope. I got a couple things for you guys.
Go
ahead.
So I need you guys to take a vote to authorize me to sign on your behalf the permits that were issued at the June 10th meeting. So that's the minor modifications for 404 Summer Street and 1210 Osgood, certificate of compliance for 130 Ray Street, determinations of applicability for 34 Thistle Road, Mill Pond condominiums, and 30 Tanglewood Lane.
Okay, before we vote, I can't vote on 1210, so we have to do it separate.
Okay.
Oh, okay. All right.
All right, so yeah, hold 1210 out.
Okay. So
And
pull out.
you have to hold out North Ramp too.
Yes.
1210 we didn't conclude tonight though, did we? We did not.
No, we did. That was for the swale.
Oh, just the swale. I'm sorry.
That was a different one.
Talking about the modification. I'm sorry.
No, it's all right. So did we have a motion on that?
Yes.
Deb?
Yes, I offered a motion.
All right.
And Deb seconded.
Okay.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, and that's unanimous. And now I'll do 1210L.
Okay.
So with respect to 2421692 1210 Osgood Street, same motion excluding Mr. Napoli.
Second.
Deb, okay. Okay, Lou. And all in favor?
Aye.
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 And Lou abstains. All right, and so now I need you to vote to allow me to sign on your behalf for tonight's applications. Well, it's 502 Winter Street, request for determination applicability or determination. And the enforcement order for Sergeant School, and then the two decisions for Barker Street and 410 Summer.
That's it? All right, good.
So move.
Most,
Okay. So
Second.
Deb,
all right, Deb's a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? And that's unanimous.
all right, I have one more thing. Sorry.
You're pushing it.
I'm sorry. Hold on.
You're asking for it, Amy.
I know. It was a follow-up question from the abutter to 502 Winter. She asked, she said, can you please clarify with Deb comments during the meeting? Is it our understanding that she said she applauded us for writing such a well-written commentary and voicing our concerns and wanted our written comments attached to the proposal? Did Deb indicate that she wanted us to provide more information about violations we stated?
No.
Okay. All right. Just that you appreciated their input.
And also attach that document to that project,
Right.
which you would have anyway.
Say that again?
You would have attached that documentation.
Oh,
to that
just that we received comments.
Yes,
Right.
and not just that we received it, Amy, that the comments are annexed to the record and incorporated by reference.
Gotcha. And will
Right.
be, okay. And would be listed in the minutes for, okay, gotcha.
Correct, yeah.
And as Joe stated previous, this COVID virus has raised havoc with everything. However, if she sees violations, she should be notifying us. We're not a police department. We don't know. Nobody tells us. We don't know.
No, I know, but she does. So
Good.
It was hard during the breakout and
Right.
the shutdown. So, yeah.
So just so she's aware of it, so she stops throwing. I don't want to throw you under the bus. And
Oh, no.
and,
Yeah. No, I get it. Okay.
all right.
All right.
All right. That's it.
All right. And by the way, Deb, I'll bet you lunch that sign gets taken down the first time it's put up by a wing.
By a wing?
Which sign are we talking about?
The
No
no
salt
salt.
sign.
The wing plow is going to shear that sucker right off.
Well,
I didn't know. I don't know that.
we could always have a friendly pool, pick dates.
All right, very
All
good.
right.
Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We got a motion, and do we have a second?
Somewhere in there was a second.
Yeah, there was definitely a second there. Yeah,
Everybody
I heard a
moved
second.
it.
All right, awesome. All right, goodbye, everybody, before we
All
get
right.
in trouble.
Good night,
All right,
all.
Goodbye.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night. Take care.
Have a good vacation, Amy.
Oh, thank you.
Bye now.
All right.
Night.
Bye-bye.